All right, everybody, it's the Working Fans Podcast, and we're back to talk some more wrestling action. And we're excited. AJ, why don't we start off? How excited are you?
Well, I woke up this morning and I wasn't that excited, but then I remembered to take my dubby, and I instantaneously had my blood pumping and was fired up and ready for this show. Now, fans, if you want to actually have that same energy and get through your day and get through your workout with that same jitterless, just fantastic ball of energy, put in fans working when you're checking out and get yourself 10% off, and you can feel all the fun that I'm feeling right now. Woo!
Absolutely, absolutely. And today we're going to talk about the Bloodline, and is it the greatest storyline in wrestling history? But before we get to that, AJ, you mentioned to me that Jushin Liger is going to be on AEW Collision tomorrow night. I got to think that's just to be part of the Owen Hart Finals, right?
I would assume so. Maybe he'll be there to actually help with the cup, to deliver the cup. You know what I mean? Or are they doing belts again this time?
I don't know. Oh, they have that cup, yeah, because they've had the trophy out every single time when CM Punk goes by it. He's made it a point to like kiss it and hold it and stuff.
Well, that's the funny thing is they keep showing this cup, but there's only one cup there. Are the women and men going to have to share it? Is it going to be you get it this week, I get it next week?
Maybe it's one of those things where they'll have two cups on the night of the final Saturday.
Well, the funny thing is I'll be honest with you, I prefer the belt more from last year.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem with title belt is that if you're not actually defending it,
right?
You know what they should do? And this is just Tony Khan. I know you're listening. Just an idea for you for next year. Take the winner from this year, do the tournament, have the winner at the final, whoever wins the tournament, actually face who won last year, and they can defend the belt.
Not a bad idea. I mean, it might get interrupted by injuries, contracts, you never know. But I mean, assuming all things stay the same, it's a thought process to maybe make it feel a little more important, like you're defending a championship.
Yeah, that's just it. Add even a little bit more prestige. Also, fans, don't forget, if you're enjoying this Owen Hart storyline tournament, and even if you're not, check out the Owen Hart Foundation. They do so much good in the community throughout Canada, throughout the world. It's really a great foundation set up by Dr. Martha Hart, and it's done tremendous things in Owen's name. So please check out their website.
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about the Bloodline storyline. Last week, the trial of the tribal chief here. I got this written down here. Hold on a second. I had it written down here. When me and you had a little discussion earlier, I lost it. Here we go. So that was, according to Brandon Thurston, the second quarter last week, SmackDown, which was the last segment with no interruptions or anything, drew more than 3 million viewers. And in the 18 to 49 demo, 1.23 million. That is the highest wrestling quarter hour in recent memory. Now,
pretty impressive.
When you look at it, too, and they've had high ratings in the past, so they keep kind of outdoing each other here. Before we even ask at the end of this, is it the greatest storyline in all time? But what do you think the secret of the success is with this storyline?
They've gone in directions at times that you don't necessarily see coming. They have done a great job of investing everybody with the crowd, really getting behind it. They really had Roman at different times be abusive, but they had him do it in a way where it was short-lived, and then there would be the moments of, hey, everything's going great, and then it was almost just sprinkled in there just enough to make it volatile when it finally did explode.
And I would say, too, over the last, at least a decade in pro wrestling, and this is WWE and even AEW to a point, with the exception of maybe their Hangman storyline. I don't think anything has been disevolved or took they've put so much time into something like this in recent memory.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's all about investing. When you invest the time into something and you do the storyline and you really bring it out, that's when you do something amazing. And when we talk about later on whether or not it's the greatest storyline of all time, I'm going to bring up a couple other angles that are very similar because I feel like we've seen this before uh, in the sense that they have had these storylines. You just don't see them often in today's wrestling.
So let's do one.
Well, like Sting versus Hogan.
Okay, that's a good one.
Now the finish of it in the finale was not quite what we needed to get from it, and it didn't end probably in a manner that we would all. I mean, we wanted Sting to go over. We wanted, everything to go the way we wanted it to, and it didn't work out quite the way we wanted it. But the storyline itself, keeping Sting away from him, having him come down from the rafters, taking out people. It's hard to debate that that's one of the great long-term storylines of all time.
Absolutely. And we don't know how this Bloodline storyline will end yet. We don't have that luxury. So,
well, the impressive thing about this storyline is that prior to the Bloodline, even though the Usos were a great tag team, it is hard to debate whether or not Main Event J really was Main Event J. They took a tag team that, while being a great tag team, never had single success, either one of them, never really pushed it. So they've made people with this storyline. So the difference is Sting and Hogan were both made before this.
To me, it's the equivalent of Bobby Eaton actually main eventing a major pay-per-view with Ric Flair for the World Championship, and everybody thinking Bobby might win.
Oh, no, I can absolutely see where you're coming from with that.
Right. Bobby was a talented tag wrestler, a talented wrestler, but they never made him that believable main event guy. I'm not saying Jay's going to win, but I think there's a portion of the audience that believes he can do it.
Well, I think one of the great storylines that I can think of where somebody did get made is from NXT. I think if you look at when Bayley was going for the NXT title, Bayley really was not considered to be a main event player at the time. They actually, Sasha and everybody talked down to her, and to see the way that they built that up and built her persona and eventually made her into the main event, that to me is more similar to the Usos and Roman, because Roman did build them up into main events, but he also talked down to them at different times. And it makes a difference.
It's funny when you talk about this, like I hadn't really planned this, but I was thinking about it. You mentioned Sting and Hogan, over a year build that took before we got there. Bayley was a while. This might be, even by earlier standards in years past, this might be one of the longest built up storylines between Roman and Jay. Just 3 years.
Well, also within a faction, another one that you might want to consider that everybody in the faction became stronger was the rise and fall of Evolution. The supergroup Evolution, when they started off, Batista and Randy Orton obviously were not made, and you had Ric Flair, who was at the tail end of his career and really everybody thought was done. So and we haven't even talked about how they've built up Solo. To me, how they're building up Solo is similar to how they built up Batista, as he's quiet in the corner, but every once in a while you get that little interaction, and they're a beast of a in-ring performer. So there's a lot of similarities to Evolution.
Yeah, when you talk about factions, that's another thing. The Bloodline, like where are they going to rank in top factions of all time? Holding all the championships for quite a bit of time, building up Solo, like you said, is another one. And it's kind of funny because one of the other top factions people would probably mention in recent memory would be the Shield. Another one Roman Reigns was involved in.
Yeah, the Shield, absolutely. But the difference is the Shield were all new. Something that might be a little similar, and I know we've only talked WWE, is actually Hangman Page being built and then going away from the Elite and going out on his own there and chasing Kenny Omega. To me, the build of Hangman Page is very similar to how we have built up Jey Uso, because it's been very natural. It's been the crowd support. It's been people getting behind him. Hopefully he doesn't get lost in the shuffle like Hangman has.
Right.
But it's been a good build.
I just don't think at the end of this, where Hangman won the championship, I don't see Jey doing that.
So here's the thing. The part of me says no, absolutely not. He's not. They're not going to put the belt on him. But from a storyline point, you couldn't have a bigger underdog build and a better storyline than Jey Uso working his way all the way to the World Championship. And from a family standpoint, I mean, everything's on the line. Think about even this week. He says, "Oh no, you could be the chief." He's all emotional. He's going to give him the headset. It wasn't until Jey went to take the title that Roman was like, "What?"
Yeah. No, everybody was brilliant in that. Paul Heyman, as always, was brilliant. You can see Paul screaming a no at the end of that. Yeah.
Well, they also did a great job of building the importance to the necklace and to the belt with how Solo reacted.
Right.
Solo didn't just go with Roman.
No,
Solo hesitated, looked at the necklace, looked at the belt, it was like, wait a minute, maybe I want this too.
Right. So here's another question. We're going to take this everywhere. We're going to ADD this a little bit this week. Let's say a hypothetical world, we are going to get The Rock back. Does that mean that's our WrestleMania main event?
So here's what I'm thinking. Roman goes over Jey at SummerSlam.
Right.
Goes to celebrate. Look, I am the tribal chief. I put down Jey. There's nobody else in this family left to actually stop me from my claim. And that's when you can hit The Rock's music. And think about it. What does The Rock have to do right now? We're on a writer's strike in Hollywood.
Right.
The Actors Guild has just announced that they're actually going to go on strike to support the writers. So what does Rock actually have to do?
Yeah, and the XFL isn't until when?
Next year.
April, right?
Yeah.
Around that time, anyway. I was actually thinking about this, and it might actually make more sense if we didn't get The Rock at WrestleMania, like if he came before that, because he could
be a Royal Rumble match. I mean, I would think that they would do it at WrestleMania,
right?
Although it is in Philadelphia this year, and I don't think the people of Philly deserve that.
You know what? Actually, I thought about this again. We're gonna take this down another road here, but side quests, as Freddie Prinze Jr. would say. How about? I was thinking about Philadelphia, right? The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. That was a site of WrestleMania 15 main event of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
25 years later.
25 years later.
25 WrestleMania later. But yeah. So who knows?
Rock is if anything in better shape than he was in WrestleMania 15.
We get Rock for more than that, and Roman can take that side deal with The Rock before Mania. And we got Rock and Stone Cold built as their last match, the last match they're ever going to have. They're going to do it at WrestleMania 40. Then we could still do Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes 2, the hard times of Cody Rhodes. And here's one thing, this is totally fucking out there now. But what if Dustin Rhodes' contract is up by that time? Roman has had all his family left him. And the importance of family is what's shown here with Dustin Rhodes and several other members of Cody, entourage coming to help him.
Let's see. Jack, what do you think? I think that's some crazy ass shit.
He agrees. All right. Let's get down to
No, I think in my opinion, the Cody Rhodes stuff, sure, it would work. Great stuff. However, Austin, I do not want to see in there with The Rock.
Really?
Austin barely looked like he could go when he worked with Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
Rock does not work all the time anymore. First of all, Rock looks jacked right now. So you're going to see how much older Stone Cold looks compared to The Rock. It's really not the way I want to remember Stone Cold. That's for damn sure.
Stone Cold's got a lot of time to train. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, here's what speaking of Stone Cold, at the end of the day, I'm going to argue why you could make the Bloodline as the greatest storyline of all time. But what I'm going to say is probably the greatest storyline of all time is Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon still. Because if you look at Hogan, Hogan was an attraction. And, you had the Hogan Piper thing and all that. But it was the Hogan attraction with Vince that had that big boom period. If you look at before.
What about Hogan and Andre WrestleMania 3 storyline?
Great attraction. It was a great storyline, yes. But Hogan himself over a period of time. Now, Bruno, different era, big attraction. Flair, the touring champion. But Vince and Austin, that storyline itself is what changed WWE in the 90s and got them to overtake the ratings again in WCW and brought them into a corporate company. Now, that being said, the money that the Bloodline is making for WWE in this era is more money than WWE has ever made. However, money's different now. Yeah. So
there's a lot of money coming in from a lot of venues that didn't come in from back then. One of my favorite storylines, and a great storyline also, is Harley Race putting the bounty on Ric Flair. That's one of the great storylines of all time.
That's old school right there. The bounty storyline. You don't hear that too often. So, what's your favorite storyline of all time, personally?
That's a tough one. There's so many great storylines. I think one of my favorite storylines of all time that I don't think gets quite enough credit, and this is going to throw you off because it's not one of my favorite matches of all time, and I don't even think it's one of the best WrestleManias, but the original WrestleMania, the storyline building up to that, incorporating Cyndi Lauper, incorporating Mr. T, incorporating so many things, and because there was so much on the line, it's not like today where there's already this juggernaut and you're just trying to maintain and improve. Everything was on the line for WrestleMania 1. So to get all of those people and the way Rowdy Piper played his part, getting Orndorff, getting all those guys involved, it just, to me, is one of the great storylines of all time. And it's a blend of reality with a blend of pro wrestling, which is when you have the best stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, one of my personal favorite storylines, it didn't draw the most money. I've talked about it too, but Flair and Funk, 89. Oh, yeah. This the physicality. I thought was so great.
Here's a storyline that didn't connect with me that probably should have, and it's around that same time period. It's actually right before it. The Ricky Steamboat Flair storyline. While they had some of the greatest matches during that time period, the storyline just sucked.
I was just talking about this the other day. But I thought it was really good in the sense that you had this family man, Ricky Steamboat, who was a legit known as a family man around that time too, come out with his wife and kids and all that. And you had Flair, the womanizing playboy partier with all his like rich clothes and cars. Like Flair was that way in real life. So I liked that that's what they did with that. Now, the only thing that was interesting was, I would say, that a lot of young 18 to 49-year-old men at that time actually weren't going for Ricky Steamboat, the babyface. They're like, "Oh, I like that guy."
That's what I'm talking about. The story, you can write the best storyline, but if the storyline doesn't connect, how good was it?
That's a good point. But at the end of the day, those guys are legends, and I'm sure.
Well, the storyline with Nick Wayne this week.
Okay.
The storyline with Nick Wayne, I mean, it writes itself. His dad passed away. He's a third-generation wrestler. Until Darby Allin came out, the crowd didn't cheer him.
I thought they were about.
No, they were okay, but when he came out, it was crickets. Then Darby came out with him at the top of the ramp, and the crowd started to cheer for him. And then they cheered for him from then. But when he first came out at the top, listen to it again. I'm telling you, you hear nothing.
Would you have had Nick Wayne win?
I would have had Nick Wayne win because I would not have had Nick Wayne versus Swerve in his first fucking match.
Right. Okay, I got what you're saying.
No, it's not to take away from anything. It was a good match, but we saw a lot of errant things in that match that maybe he wouldn't have had quite the jitters. Maybe, I know they looked at it as protecting him because he's worked with Swerve before. But because of how good Swerve is and the level you have to be at to work with Swerve,
Nick a little too much.
Exactly. They could have shined him a lot more, by putting him in there with a classic worker, even putting him in there with somebody like QT Marshall. I know people don't like QT, but QT is very good at making people look good.
Now, let's we talked a little bit before. Let's end the show today. Collision, we mentioned it. Owen Hart Cup Finals. I don't know.
Tonight we have the women's quarter, the semifinal, because Willow wasn't cleared to wrestle last week.
Right. So maybe we won't do the women's because I haven't seen a spoiler for that. I don't know.
Neither have I.
Yeah, that's already happened. So we won't guess the women's because if we guess it right, people might say we're spoiling it. What would you say for the men's finals? Is it Punk or are they going to go all the way with Pretty Ricky?
No, I think Punk's winning it.
Yeah, I do too. I think because we're building Punk towards MJF eventually after the
To be honest with you, I'd like to see Punk win it, and I'd like to see Pretty Ricky actually turn heel.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Do you think Punk's going to be heel though at some point? He keeps getting booed by a lot of. See, the thing is, they've been in these Canadian markets all the time too, and so we haven't actually seen them in Canada.
Punk is going to keep playing the character Punk plays.
Yeah.
He'll be the heel in some markets. He'll be the face in some markets. He's going to keep being CM Punk wherever he goes. Ricky, to be honest with you, I prefer Ricky as a heel. So,
all right. Well, you know who's not a heel.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by Russellville.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harris, and Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories, including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at Russellville.com. Russellville. It's where wrestling lives.